Hey everyone, welcome back. So today's makeup tutorial is this really nice dark smoky eye with a nice rusted transition shade. Over the centre of the lid I've applied a metallic bronze just to give it a little bit of life so it's not too flat. This is a really nice deep smoky eye that works so well when you wear your hair up. So let's get started. I'm starting with the colour Constructivist, which is a paint pot by MAC. This is a beautiful warm brown with a pearlescent finish, and this is going to be applied to the mobile eyelid and into the socket line. A little tip when using products like a paint pot by MAC is to use a synthetic brush so it doesn't clump in the bristles, and that way it blends onto the skin a lot easier. So once you've taken that up to the socket line, we're then going to go in with a blending brush and just soften that through the socket. This is going to prevent our eyeshadow that we apply on top from moving, and it's also going to help intensify the black so we don't need as much of it and we don't have to keep packing it on to really build up the colour. I'm now pulling Constructivist out on the outer edge. The easiest way to do this is to look straight in front of the mirror, then you can see where the highest point of your eyelid crease is. We want to pull that colour out directly in a straight line from that highest point. So this is going to be the guide for where we want our black eyeshadow to be. We are going to use a transition shade over this to blend the black out, so it will go a little bit higher than the guide, but this is where the black's going to be. Again, once you've applied the initial colour, you then want to go in with a blending brush and just soften all the lines. Next I'm going in with the ZOEVA Graphic Eyes Kohl pencil. This is from their black box collection. This is one of the most soft kohls I've ever used, but it also lasts really well. So I'm going to use this to tightline underneath the top lash line and also along the waterline all the way across. I often find this easier to do before eyeshadow so that you don't have to try and get into your waterline after you've applied your eyeshadow, especially if you're going for a smoky eye. This is the best black eyeshadow I've ever used. This is the Natasha Denona Blackest Black, and it's a matte finish. I'm using a flat shader brush to apply this. I'm packing it directly on top of the paint pot that we've already applied. I'm only doing a light wash of colour first, just so I can map out the shape and really pack it on, and then we're going to layer the colours to really sandwich it. Using the very tip of the brush, I'm now creating a bit of a wing. Don't worry about it being a dead sharp line, we will soften it. This is to create the shape. And now looking up directly in the mirror, I can see where I need to fill in to create that nice V shape. And this is why you don't want to go in with too much of a heavy black to begin with. If your guideline isn't quite how you want it, it's going to be really hard to blend out. Next up, I'm going in with the colour Rust by Melt Cosmetics. I really fancied using something I don't use very often and something that was a bit more of an intense orangey kind of brown. Now it's not going to be very attractive this up close when working on it, but I promise you once you step back and look at the full face when it's finished, it will work beautifully. So I'm going back to my base shadow brush and I'm working that colour directly over the seam of the black eyeshadow. And the reason I say that quite slowly and carefully is because I want you to understand the placement of this eyeshadow is to blend out the edges. We're not using this to take it up to the eyebrow bone. A lot of people say that when they're creating a smoky eye, it ends up looking really muddy and a little bit like they've been punched in the eye. And that's because sometimes this transition shade ends up going all over the place and you kind of lose that shape. So continually work your brush backwards and forwards over the edge of the black. This does mean that your black will disappear a bit, but it doesn't matter because we've only applied a light wash at this stage. We're going to reapply the black to intensify it. So use a very light hand and just work it in window wiper motions, going backwards and forwards, blending the seam of the black eyeshadow. We're then going to go back in with our flat shader brush and some of that rust colour and just work that between those lower lashes, and then this is going to be the transition shade for the black which we're now applying over the top. I'm also adding another wash of black to the top lid before we apply the next eyeshadow. On the centre of the lid I'm applying this Luminous eyeshadow by Hot Makeup USA in the shade Catherine. These are so soft, they work really well when you apply it with your finger. If you've never seen this brand, look them up, their eyeshadows are phenomenal. Going back in with my black, I'm deepening the outer edges of the mobile eyelid, both sides, and this is going to create a more three-dimensional appearance to the lid itself. To line the top lash line, I'm using their Real Push-Up Liner by Benefit Cosmetics. If you've never used this, then definitely give it a go. It's a gel formula, so like a gel liner that gets pushed through a nice pointy tip, and the tip allows you to draw a thin line across your top lash line, but it also allows you to create really nice wings, and as it's a gel, it's going to last a lot longer than a liquid which can crumble. The false lashes I'm using today are called JUDY, and these are by Flutter lashes. I've used a duo glue along the lash line, allowed it to go tacky, so when I place this along the root of the eyelash it adheres straight away. These falsies are beautifully full and fluffy, and they don't have too much of a thick band, so they're easy to apply. I'm applying the Hangover primer by Too Faced, and then I'm going straight in with the Born This Way foundation, also by Too Faced. Today I've decided to apply it with my hands, no rhyme or reason, I just fancied working it into the skin, and I've applied a second layer to the areas that needs a little bit more coverage. I'm using my ZOEVA Graphic Brows pencil in the shade Arsenic, and as usual I'm following my natural shape, filling in the sparse areas, which is usually along the top for me. I'm going to make this a bit more of a full coverage look today, so I'm applying some of the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the shade Custard underneath my eyes, and I'm pressing that into the skin using the Real Techniques Mini Miracle Complexion Sponge. To set everything in place, I'm using the new Too Faced Born This Way setting powder, and this is brilliant. I love the packaging because it's got that flip lid so the powder can't escape. It comes in a universal shade, it's definitely not a white translucent powder, so I can definitely see it working for a multitude of skin tones. To set the outer perimeter of my face, I'm using the MakeUp Multitasking Perfecting Powder. The colour I'm using is beige, it's ever so slightly darker than my skin tone, so using this around the outside edge is going to create a bit more of a three-dimensional appearance to my skin, a bit like a contour, but I don't like to use that word anymore because I feel like it's lost its entire meaning. Next I'm going in with NARS Laguna Bronzer, and I'm going to apply this to my cheekbones. This is going to softly sculpt my cheeks and just add a bit more warmth to my complexion. On the inner corners of my eyes, I'm adding a very subtle highlight. I'm using Becca's Champagne Pop. On the back half of my cheeks, I'm adding some Illamasqua's Lover Blush, which is a peachy shade, and it's in keeping with the colours that we've got on the eyes. This is probably my favourite blush, and I love that it's a matte finish. On the lips, I'm using Charlotte Tilbury's Pillow Talk. I would have used Iconic Nude, but I couldn't find it, but it doesn't matter, it's just to line my lips and work as a base because I'm going in with Too Faced Melted Latex in the colour Hopeless Romantic, which is the same shade I used last week, but I'm absolutely loving it. If you haven't checked these out and you want to come away from the melted matte lipsticks, then definitely give these a try. This is the kind of smoky eye I would wear to a restaurant where I'm wearing jeans and heels and I've got my hair up, and maybe even some big hoop earrings. I'm going to be doing a Q&A, so if you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section below. If you've got any questions about the tutorial, also leave them below and I'll do my best to get back to you. So as always, I really hope you've enjoyed this look. Please click the subscribe button on screen now if you haven't already done so. It's clickable on mobile as well as desktop. If you'd like to follow me outside of YouTube, my social handles are on screen now. And if you missed last week's tutorial, it's also on screen now. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you again soon. Bye!